Hello, and welcome. Hi, I'm Brad Zuro, and I directed this presentation of Cloak and Dagger. Before the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, there was the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. This was the secretive U.S. military group in charge of intelligence gathering during World War II. After the war, two OSS agents wrote a book about their exploits, Cloak and Dagger. In 1950, NBC adapted many of their stories for a radio series. This episode of Cloak and Dagger aired October 15, 1950, and is called Wine of Freedom. It takes us behind enemy lines in Nazi Germany to aid the underground resistance. I hope you enjoy it.
Are you willing to undertake a dangerous mission behind enemy lines, knowing that you may never return alive?
What you have just heard is the question asked during the War of Agents of the OSS. Ordinary citizens who to this question answered yes.
This is Cloak and Dagger.
Black warfare, espionage, international intrigue. These are the weapons of the OSS. In today's adventure,
Wine of Freedom. The role of Vince Keller, an American OSS agent who made a sales trip inside Hitler's Germany, is played by stage and screen star Mel Ferrer, currently to be seen with Joan Fontaine in the RKO picture Born to be Bad. Today's story is suggested by actual incidents recorded in the Washington files of the Office of Strategic Services, a story that can now be told.
That night it started to pour by the time I found the house. I stood out on the pavement and peered at it through the shadows. There wasn't anything strange or ominous about it. It was just a white frame house like the kind you see back in Omaha. Only this wasn't in Omaha. This house was number 28 Ahornstrasse in Osnabrück. And Osnabrück was in Germany, Hitler's Germany. I drew a deep breath and went up to the front steps, clutching a briefcase in my hand. It was that briefcase that made me look like a respectable German citizen. I lifted the brass knocker and let it fall a couple of times. And then I waited.
Yes. What is it you want?
She was younger than I expected, and prettier. And of course, she was suspicious. You were suspicious of everybody in those days if you were a German, particularly the kind of German I knew she was.
Well?
Frau Holzmann.
Yes.
I'd like to talk to your husband.
My husband?
Herr Ludwig Holzmann. Is he in?
What do you want to talk to him about?
Wine.
Oh, wine?
My name is Keller. I've just come from Bielefeld. I'm a wine salesman. Well, part of it was true. My name was Keller, all right. Vince Keller. And I come from Bielefeld. But I wasn't a wine salesman. I was an agent in the OSS. And what I had to sell was something stronger than wine. It was organized resistance to Nazism. I'd been at it for about a year then, almost a year since I'd sat in Colonel Metcalf's office in London.
Keller.
And told him I wanted to volunteer for the job.
You're sure that there's no trace of American dialect in your German?
Quite sure, sir. My family lived in Germany all through my childhood. I was educated in German schools.
I see. And you know what you're letting yourself in for, Keller. If the Nazis grab you,
I know, Colonel.
but you still want to undertake the mission,
It's important, isn't it, Colonel? If we can stiffen the German underground's resistance to Hitler,
the anti-Hitler movement in Germany right now can hardly be called an underground. Oh, it's merely a handful of isolated individuals in various cities. There's almost no contact between them and no organized activity at all.
well, that won't do us any good when our troops start moving across the German border, sir.
Exactly. We need effective allies inside Germany, no matter how few they are. We want them coordinated and strengthened. That's the job we'd like you to do, Lieutenant.
It's the job I'll try to do, Colonel, if the Gestapo doesn't catch up with me. Two weeks later, I parachuted into a grassy field outside Dusseldorf, and the Gestapo hadn't caught up with me yet. After Dusseldorf came Essen, and after Essen, Dorfmark, and then Bielefeld. And Hitler's secret police were still way behind. It was at Bielefeld that I heard about Ludwig Holtzmann. The underground leader there, old Johann Volk, slipped me his name.
So, your work here in Bielefeld is finished, Herr Keller? Where do you go now?
Osnabrück, Johann. You'll be hearing from me, though. I want to put the men there in contact with the resistance workers here.
We have been in contact occasionally now that Ludwig Holtzmann has paid me a visit.
Holtzmann, huh? He's the leader in Osnabrück?
He was, the last I heard. It's been several weeks. The address is number 28, Ahornstrasse.
Yeah, good enough. I'll look him up when I get there.
Oh, you'll have no trouble introducing yourself to him since you're posing as a wine merchant. Simply ask him if he's ever tried Dein Freiheit Wein.
Dein Freiheit Wein. The wine of freedom, huh?
He will know then that he can trust you, and you, of course, can trust him.
So that's how it happened, that on that September evening I followed Frau Holtzmann into the living room of her home in Osnabrück.
Won't you sit down, Herr Keller? My husband should be here soon.
He isn't home then?
No, he's late this evening. He almost always here by dinner time. I don't know where he could be. But, oh wait, yes I do.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I can just...
No, I'm sure he stopped in to see a friend down the street. I'll try to find him.
But really, I hope you won't...
It's no trouble. He'll be very eager to talk to you. He's quite interested in wine.
Oh, is he?
Yes, he would not want to keep you waiting. You stay right here and make yourself comfortable. I'll get him.
Wouldn't it be easier to call your friend's house on the telephone?
Oh, no, on the telephone. I wish I could, Herr Keller. But we had a heavy air raid in Osnabrück last night. The telephone is out of order.
It was a hasty exit she made, almost too hasty. I sat there in that empty house for a minute or two where she'd said to make myself comfortable, and somehow I wasn't, very. So I got up and went over to the telephone.
What number do you wish, please?
I was under the impression, operator, that this line is out of order.
You are mistaken, sir. This line has not been out of order today.
That gave me something to think about while I waited. I think better when I'm moving, so I began to move around the Holtzmann house. I peeked into rooms, even opened drawers, but I didn't find anything. Well, in fact, I didn't even know what I expected to find. When the front door opened, I was back in the living room trying to look comfortable.
I was right, Herr Keller. I found him drinking beer with our friends.
Caught in the act, eh, Herr Holtzmann?
Yes, I'm afraid so. Well, please, sit down, Herr Keller.
Thank you.
You are a wine salesman, my wife tells me.
Yes, yes, I am. And she tells me that you're very interested in wine.
That's true.
Sort of a connoisseur, perhaps.
You might say so, yes.
Like our mutual friend in Bielefeld, who suggested that I call on you.
And who was that, Herr Keller? What was his name?
It must have been the lie Frau Holzmann had told about the telephone that made me hold back. It must have been the way she stood there, listening so intently, so eagerly. That was why I brushed aside his question. And that was why I said nothing about the wine of freedom, even when he asked...
Tell me, Herr Keller, do you carry a dry red wine at reasonable prices?
Yes, yes, we have an excellent Burgundy, Herr Holzmann.
From where?
Why, from Chambertin.
Oh, Chambertin. What year, Herr Keller?
1927.
1927. Huh. I don't think we'd be interested in buying any of your wine.
But...
in fact, we'd appreciate it if you'd go peddle it somewhere else.
No, wait a minute.
Any authentic wine merchant would know the great frost of 1927 killed the crops of Chambertin. You might tell the Gestapo that before they send you out again.
I caught on then. I almost laughed. He thought I was a Gestapo agent. That explained it. Maybe it even explained his wife's peculiar behavior. I'd been too busy suspecting them to consider how deeply they must have been suspecting me.
Here's your hat, Herr Keller, and your case.
Oh, thanks, Holzmann. But before I go, there's another wine you might enjoy.
So, what is it?
Dein Freiheitwein. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, I have.
You like it?
Oh, I like it very much.
Perhaps you'd care to hear a little more about it.
Oh, by all means. You should have mentioned that before. Sit down, Herr Keller, and tell me all about the wine of freedom.
After that, we were all friends. Nobody suspected anybody anymore. I told him what I accomplished in Bielefeld and in the other towns, what I hoped to accomplish in Osnabrück. Their eyes glowed as they heard of the growing strength of the anti-Hitler forces within Germany.
Then we are not as isolated as we sometimes think, Herr Keller.
You have a lot of friends, Frau Holzmann. My job is to put you in touch with them.
And how will you do that?
Well, I'd like to start with a meeting of your friends here in Osnabrück. How many are there?
Well, only a few we actually know personally, maybe 6 or 7.
Oh, well, that's enough. You think you can get them all together in a safe place tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night? Well, we would have to work quickly.
It could be done, though.
I think so. Yes, yes, I'm sure it could, but I'd have to start working on it right away.
By phone?
Oh, well, we never use the phone here, unless it's urgent.
In front of strangers. You even pretend it's out of order, huh?
You checked up on me after I left, Herr Keller.
Well, I was even beginning to wonder if you were a Gestapo agent yourself, Frau Holzmann.
Oh, you needn't wonder anymore, Herr Keller. Linda is as reliable as I am. You can trust her just as you would trust me.
And then he left me alone with her while he went out to start rounding up his friends. She insisted I must be hungry, and she led me into the kitchen and gave me the dinner she had cooked for her husband.
Poor Ludwig. I don't suppose he'll get anything to eat tonight.
He should have eaten before he left.
Oh, you do not know him, Herr Keller. This underground work is his life. Food means nothing to him. He goes without sleep. He never has a moment of pleasure. Nothing matters to him but fighting the Nazis. Not even I, the woman he married.
I guess that's the way a man gets in the underground
Yes.
after a while.
Yes, he gets hard and cold and callous, like Ludwig Holzmann. Well, never mind that. If you would excuse me, Herr Keller, I want to go upstairs and get your room ready. You'll sleep here tonight,
Oh, well,
of
don't go
course.
through a lot of trouble, please.
Oh, no. It will take but a moment. You finish your dinner. I'll be right down.
But the strange thing was that she never went up. At least I didn't hear her go up. I waited for her footsteps on the stairs, and when there was no sound, I left the table and pushed open the door a crack. I saw her then in the living room, with her back to me, her head standing over the telephone.
I can't explain it to you, Val.
I heard her, too.
No, don't ask me. Just do what I tell you. Don't come here, whatever you do. Meet me by the bandstand in the park. Be here in a half an hour and wait for me. I will come as soon as I can.
Frau Holtzmann could do a lot of tricks with the telephone. I wondered if she could explain away the second one as easily as she explained the first. I didn't ask her, though. I let her show me to my room about a half hour later. I told her good night.
Oh, good night, Herr Keller. If you need anything, call me. I'm in the room right at the end of the hall.
Well, you're going to retire now, Frau Holtzmann?
Yes, I think I will. I'm very tired. I don't believe I will wait up for Ludwig.
Well, thanks again.
Oh, not at all. Good night.
Good night. I'd been tired myself, but I felt wide awake then. I went to bed, though. That is, I went through the motions of going to bed, with all the proper sound effects. I let my shoes drop loudly on the floor. Then, after I'd quietly put them on again, I opened the window and flipped the light switch. After that, I waited silently by the door. She must have taken off her own shoes to tiptoe down the stairs because I didn't hear her go. But she shouldn't have let that front door close quite so hard. I did hear that. And then I moved fast. Out of the bedroom window, down the stairs, out the front door. But I closed it quietly. She must have been 30 yards ahead of me when I reached the street. I didn't try to close the distance between us. It was easy enough to follow her. The sidewalks are practically deserted. She didn't look back once. A woman who's walking as eagerly and determinedly as Linda Holtzmann was walking doesn't bother to look back. We reached the park in 20 minutes. It was deserted too. She stayed on the gravel walk, and I stepped through the bushes. And then I did close in on her. She approached the bandstand. A figure separated itself from the shadow and came toward her.
Linda.
I was crouching behind the shrubs 3 feet away by then. I saw that the figure wore a Nazi uniform.
Oh, Paul.
What's happened? Why did you call me?
I'll tell you everything after you kiss me first.
He kissed her, and they were both lost in it. So lost that they didn't even hear the planes start winding through the night. I heard them, but I didn't move. There was something else I had to hear, something that might prove more fatal than a British bomb.
What was the meaning of the telephone call?
Paul, listen. We'd better get to the shelter.
There's one at the other end of the park.
Come on, Paul, hurry.
But tell just what has happened. We won't be able to talk in the shelter.
An OSS agent.
What?
An American spy. He's at my house now.
My God, an American spy here in Osnabrück?
Paul, they're right over there. Let's run.
No use running now. It's too late. Go, Linda. Throw yourself down.
The Nazi was right. It was too late to run. The Tommies were dropping bombs all over town. Linda followed his advice, and so did I. I flung myself on the soft ground behind those shrubs and hung on for dear life. The last bomb landed in the park. I raised my head at last. There was only a pile of rubble left standing there.
Linda!
I heard the Nazi calling her name.
Linda!
There was something in his tone that brought me to my feet, as the tone of a man who called when he doesn't expect an answer.
Linda, do you hear me? Call out to me. Gott in Himmel. She's dead.
Anything I can do, soldier?
There's nothing anyone can do. She's dead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm quite sure.
Come on, I'll get you to a doctor.
No, nein. I have no time now for doctors. Later, maybe. But there is something I must do first.
Well, I'm not hurt. I could do it for you.
Nein, I must do it myself. There's information that the Gestapo must have immediately.
He turned away and went lunging off. You don't like to do such things, but if a man's a Nazi and if he's going to betray you to the Gestapo, I raised my gun. There are other things you don't like to do either. You don't like to tell a man that his wife is lying dead in a park, or what she was doing there before she died. Not that she was kissing a Nazi soldier and selling the underground movement down the river. But I knew it had to be done. I went back to Ludwig Holzmann's house. He'd already come home and was waiting for me.
Herr Keller, I have news for you.
I have news for you too. Bad news.
But mine is good. It's all arranged already.
Huh?
All arranged.
Of the meeting, you mean?
Of course, the meeting, tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. There's a burned-out church on the highway north of the North Tower. There's no danger of being interrupted because the church, it's never used anymore. I rounded up every friend I could. There will be 7 of them, possibly 8.
Oh, good work, Holzmann.
Danke, Herr Keller. But what did you want to tell me?
It's your wife.
My wife?
She, look, my friend, there's no way of breaking this to you gently.
No, never mind. Just tell me, what about my wife?
She's dead, Holzmann.
She
was killed in the raid tonight.
in the... Oh, God. Oh, no. No, it isn't possible.
I'm sorry, Holzmann.
I mean, I just can't believe it, Herr Keller.
I know how hard it is.
No, you don't know, Herr Keller. Well, you couldn't know because you don't know what she meant to me.
Easy, Holzmann.
Oh, I just can't help it. I can't, I'm sorry, but it's so hard to face.
Oh, you faced a lot of hard things in these past few years. I guess you'll manage to face this.
Oh, those were nothing. Linda was everything to me. Nothing else matters. She was my whole life.
I sat there and felt like a heel. Because his grief left me cold. I suppose I should have felt sorry for him, but I didn't. There was something wrong somewhere. There was a phony note in his sorrow that I couldn't put my finger on. Well, not then, at least. Later on that night, after I'd helped him to his room, after I'd gone to bed myself and lay in the darkness thinking about it, I began to understand.
Hard, cold, and callous, like Ludwig Holzmann.
It was her voice. Linda Holzmann's voice that told me.
Nothing matters to him. Nothing but fighting the Nazis. Not even I, the woman he married.
But how did that jibe with the sobbing, grief-stricken husband I had just seen? And after all, why should a man who's fought the Nazis, who's lived with death for 10 years, why should he collapse so completely at the news of one more death? Even the death of his wife. Oh, yeah. Something was wrong somewhere. Something was very definitely wrong. I thought I knew what it was, and if I was right, then Der Fuhrer's secret police was breathing down my neck. He was still sleeping when I slipped out of the house the next morning. I didn't go far, just across the street and 2 doors down, to number 21 Ahornstrasse.
Yes? What is it you want?
I'm sorry to disturb you so early. I wonder if you could help me. I'm a stranger in town. I'm looking for the Holzmann residence.
Holzmann? Across the street, 2 doors that way, number 28.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Guten Tag.
Excuse me. I think I have the right party, don't I? That is Herr Ludwig Holzmann's house, isn't it?
It was his house.
Oh? Doesn't he live there anymore?
Herr Ludwig Holzmann died 3 weeks ago.
And then I knew I was right. I turned away from the door, but I didn't have any place to go. So I turned back again, and the woman in the doorway was still standing there, still staring at me thoughtfully.
Excuse me, why did you want to see Ludwig Holzmann?
Well, I'm a wine merchant. I didn't know he was dead. I thought he might be interested in some wine.
I see. Strong wine?
Oh, very strong. A special kind.
Called?
Called Dein Freiheit-Wein.
Ah.
Oh, you're familiar with it.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Well, perhaps I could interest you.
Perhaps you could. Won't you step in?
I followed her into her house, and then I took a chance. I told her who I was and why I'd come to Osnabrück and what has happened since I've arrived.
I see.
Then the real Ludwig Holzmann is dead.
He was killed by the Gestapo, Herr Keller. His own wife betrayed him.
Funny, that's just how I had it figured.
Fortunately, she doesn't know who the rest of us are, or else she would betray us too.
Well, not anymore. She was killed last night in the raid.
She was?
Doesn't exactly break your heart, I imagine.
On the contrary, it saves us the trouble of someday killing her ourselves. But you say she introduced another man to you as her husband?
She must have had orders to report anyone who came looking for Ludwig. She went out and brought this man back with her, a tall, thin chap with a black mustache.
Ah, yeah. Fritz Habel, probably. One of the most powerful Gestapo agents in Osnabrück.
Oh, nice company I've been keeping lately.
That's what I don't understand. Why didn't he turn you over immediately? What is he waiting for?
Well, for the meeting tonight, probably.
Meeting?
Well, he knows I'm planning to talk about the underground work in neighboring cities.
I see.
He figures he'll pick up a flock of names.
Yeah.
Well, he'd never ask me for the names directly for fear he'd look suspicious.
Yeah, but who does he intend to bring to such a meeting?
Well, some more Gestapo agents, I imagine. Maybe he's bringing them over from Dolfmark and Bielefeld.
And he hopes he will give them useful information, huh?
Oh, sure, it's a nice setup. They'll sit around and scribble down everything I say, and when they've milked me, they'll string me up.
Oh, how lucky that you came to my door. Now you can escape, Herr Keller.
Escape? No, I don't think so.
What do you mean?
7 or 8 Gestapo agents, all gathered under one roof? That's awfully inviting.
But you can't go to that meeting.
Why not? They don't know I know who they are.
You will never get out alive.
I'm not so sure. Oh, I was pretty cocky then. But by the time night came, I'd lost a lot of it. I had to put on an act for Fritz Habel all day, pretending I still thought he was Ludwig Holzmann, pretending I trusted him and was sorry for his great loss. By 11 o'clock, he and I slipped up the moonlit path. My nerves were pretty thin. I'd taken a lot of risks since coming to Germany. But I'd never walked into a meeting of Gestapo agents before, every one of whom knew who I was.
Oh, they're here already. You see, Herr Keller?
I saw. Through the cloud of cigar smoke, I saw the narrow, hungry eyes that turned on me. I saw the half-hidden smiles. I sensed the laughter inside them.
My friends, you know why we are meeting here tonight. You know that here by my side is a man, an American, who has the courage to come into this land of terror to help us. In spite of Gestapo agents.
He made quite a production of it. He went on for 5 minutes building me up, and all the while I could hear that silent, mocking laughter.
And so now, Herr Keller will tell us of the work he has been doing in other German cities. He will give us the names of our brothers who are fighting in the same cause for which we fight. He will teach us how to fight more effectively, how to bring closer the day of final victory. I present Herr Keller, the American.
Thanks, Herr Holzmann. Brothers and friends, my plans have changed somewhat. I did intend to tell you about the resistance movement in other cities, but I find that the resistance movement here in Osnabrück is quite impressive. So I decided to show you an example of that instead. If you look around you, you'll get a real lesson in how we fight, how we bring closer the day of final victory. It took them a minute to catch on, but not long. Then they turned and saw what I was pointing at. They saw the guns of the underground that were shoved through every bombed-out window. They died, all 8 of them. Well, Colonel Metcalf had told me to make the German underground strong and effective. He said it had to be organized. It was pretty well organized that night in Osnabrück.
And later in Dortmund, Bielefeld, Essen, Düsseldorf. Soon, due in large part to Vince Keller of the OSS, the resistance was well organized throughout Nazi Germany. And once again, the report of another OSS agent closes with the words, "Mission accomplished." Listen again next week for another true adventure from the files of the OSS on CLOAK and DAGGER. Heard in today's Cloak and Dagger adventure was Vince Keller. That was Mel Ferrer, star of stage and screen. Abel was Herbert Burkhoff. Frau Linda Holtzman, Francis Robinson. Others were Ralph Bell, Raymond Edward Johnson, Vilma Kerr, Ian Martin, and Carl Weathers. The script was written by Ken Field, and music was under the direction of John Gart. Sound effects by Ted Hill and Jerry McGee. Engineering by George Post. Today's OSS adventure was based on the book Cloak and Dagger by Corey Ford and Alistair McBain. This program is produced by Louis G. Collins and Alfred Hollander. Now for the real cast on the stage. Playing the role of the operator and our fearless leader, Ellie Babka. The role of Johann was played by Jay Summerfield. The role of Paul was played by Herb Thompson. The role of the neighbor was played by Donna Amesmeyer. The role of our fearless colonel was played by Andre Dixon. The role of Frau Linda Holtzman was played by Alison Byhan. And the role of Herr Ludwig Holtzmann was played by Jacob Palka. The role of Keller was played by Mark Fazio. And our magical sound effects person is Marty McNulty. I'm your announcer. My name is Kathy Juarez.